Good evening to everybody present here. Today, me, Rhyme, along with my co-host Pratham, welcome you all to today's career-centric webinar, Miss MS Abroad. Navigating the Global Landscape, organized by SCEE-DTU. Society for Civil and Environmental Engineers aims to provide a platform to advocate the ever-evolving issue of paramount importance. SCEE-DTU was founded in 2009 with the aim of providing its members with the practical, innovative paths of learning in the field of civil and environmental engineering.
The objective of today's webinar is to provide exposure to students who aspire to pursue a master's degree from various global universities in order to enhance their career prospects in the respective fields. In today's interconnected and competitive world, obtaining a master's degree from a renowned international institution can significantly contribute to an individual's professional growth and open up a plethora of opportunities.
Before moving forward, I would like to invite Professor A.K. Srivastava, Dean of Center for Extension and Field Outreach. Professor A.K. Srivastava is the faculty advisor of SCEE-DTU and also professor at Civil Engineering Department. Sir is currently serving as the Chief Project Officer in the administrative wing, overseeing all the infrastructure requirements and projects in DTU. I request Sir to welcome our audience by highlighting the importance of today's events. Sir, you're muted. Could you please?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I think now I am audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, everybody. And
Yeah.
I am very happy to see that today on Saturday, and also when the university is going on for the summer vacations, about close to 100 participants are here for this webinar. These webinars are very important for civil and environmental engineering students, and it is not just important for what that uh, our alumni students will be discussing with our students about that opportunities and avenues for higher studies in different university in the world. But this webinar is also important because that the two students, the alumni and the present students, where will be getting the benefit through the peer students, or you say that 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years older students uh, with the present students. Because when we see our peer students or peer candidates or our friends are growing, uh, we get the feeling that yes, the similar things can also be done by us. Because see, when a teacher, when a professor says something to the students, sometimes they don't take it very seriously, because they see that they think that they are just come to say sermons or to the students. When their fellow students say something and share some experience with them, they feel that the current experience and the uh, more realistic appearance they are sharing with each others. And I am happy that today we have with us Shambhavi, who is going for the master at Stanford University. Then we have Tanya Arora. Then we have Sarvani Reddy and Yash and Gauri Thakur. All are doing masters at different world-class university of the globe, and they are here to tell you about that how you can have your career for master studies at different parts of the globe. And after passing from DTU, they are that feeling for us, and they will be guiding our students for taking this type of opportunity. I am thankful to them, and before thanking them, I should welcome all these speakers of today for the programs. And I am thankful to the organizer of SCEE that they have arranged such a program here, and I am sure that the my students who are currently in second year and third year will get the benefit out of this. and this program will be a meaningful program for them. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and I welcome all for this seminar, especially to the invited guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for those insightful words. Without further ado, we present our esteemed panelists who have excelled and achieved their dream of pursuing MS abroad through their great determination and hard work.
First, we have Ms. Shambhavi Rathore from Environmental Engineering batch of 2023, who has received admits from Stanford University, Carnegie Mellon University, UC Berkeley, University of Michigan, University of Illinois, University of Toronto, Texas A&M University, and Wageningen University.
Next, we have Ms. Tanya Arora from Environmental Engineering batch of 2023, who has received admits for MS from Stanford University, University of Michigan and Arbor, University of Toronto, and University of Illinois.
Next up, we have Ms. Shambhavi Reddy from Environmental Engineering batch of 2023, who has received admits from University of Toronto, Wageningen University, University of Michigan, University of Leeds, University of California, Arizona State University, and Illinois Institute of Technology.
Next, we would like to introduce our fourth speaker, Ms. Gauri Thakur from BA Economics batch of 2023, who has received admits for masters from renowned universities like University of Warwick, University of Leeds, and University of Bristol in economics.
Now, the last speaker for the event, Mr. Yash Gupta from Engineering Physics batch of 2023. He has received admits from Queen Mary University of London in Artificial Intelligence and Durham University in Scientific Computing and Data Analysis.
Now, we move on to the most awaited part of the webinar. We would like to request our panelists to share the details of the long and arduous journey that has finally led them to achieve their dreams.
The panel members will now share with us an outline of what encompasses a good application that stands out from the multitude of applications received by these esteemed international universities. Furthermore, they will share the details of the individual portfolio and personal experiences throughout the remarkable journey. We request the panelists to please present the screen and take over.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Sarvani, and we're all very excited to be sharing like what our experience was and any tips we have with you guys. And we wish you all the best for your applications as well. This being said, this is all of our personal experience, and it is what worked for us, and it may or may not work for you. So, all the best, and hope you get some good takeaways from this. Next slide, please. Right. So today we'll be covering 6 main topics. One is like an introduction as to why like one should probably go for masters. Second, we'll be covering like a general timeline as to when you should start, when you should start your essays, give your tests, approach your professors for LORs and everything. Third, we'll be sharing the process of shortlisting colleges and how you can do that and some tips and tricks as well. And fourth, we'll be covering like exam prep and exam related details of IELTS, TOEFL, and GRE. Fifth, we'll be covering the SOP and any other essays that are required for applications. And sixth, we have LORs. So we'll be covering like how you can approach your professors and what are the main things you need to know. Next slide, please.
So the first thing is, why do we want to go for masters abroad? See, the thing is, when you are applying for masters abroad, you are trying to go to the field or university that has the best opportunities. Like you will be able to achieve there what you want to do, like the domain. You are going to able to go in depth in the subjects you are interested in. You will have specialized program there, like if different university provide with you program that may be beneficial for you, more personalized to you. You will be able to attain international exposure. You will be meeting with professors from different countries. They come from different backgrounds, your peers. There will be massive networking opportunities, learning from them, hanging out with them, getting to know them. And obviously, if you're investing so much in money and time and dedication in this, you will be expecting a better job prospects from them. And if you are able to, if you're going for a new country, new job prospect, everything, it will be helpful for your personal growth, and you will be finally getting a taste of independence, Like you will have to do everything, manage everything on your own in a alien country for you. And obviously, masters abroad will provide you some better research opportunities than you can get in India. So yeah.
So I'll just be covering the general timeline. So in June, what you want to do is that what you should have done by now is decided that you wanted to pursue masters, and sort of begun your university shift shortlisting. And also, when you're doing your university shortlisting, what I suggest is talk to the alumni over there, ask them and get information about the coursework, because they can give you insights on how research based it is, whether the professors are nice or not, and on basis of that you can also like cut off universities from your list. So this is a long process, so start taking out time for it, and it will probably go like, at least for me, it went all the way till September. I was just shortlisting my universities. Then from July to August, you want to see what are the required exams for you, and what is the eligibility criteria, whether you have to get a certain GPA or something like that. And if there are any required exams, then you should start preparing for them and appearing for them. Obviously, the prep time for TOEFL and IELTS, I feel like it's around 2 months or maybe a month will also. And for stuff like GRE, it's usually a little longer. It's 3 months. But what you have to see is whether you actually need to give these competitive exams. So again, ask the alumni, check out the websites, because they're not compulsory for everybody except TOEFL and IELTS, I think. Then between August to September, you have to start probably drafting your statement of purpose, your diversity statement. And this, again, you have to contact the alumni and sort of ask them for reviews on it, so that you can cater your statement of purpose for that particular university. But yeah, first you need to get that first draft ready. And following this, you should also be contacting your professors regarding your LOR, because that process usually takes a long time. Then in September, what you want to do is that you should be making application accounts for the shortlisted universities. So apply for the transcripts and other documents, and also draft your LORs, because professors don't usually do that. So you have to prepare a preliminary, draft for them and share it with them. And for some universities, you would have to fill in some preliminary details before LORs and etc. can be submitted. So it's good that you get started with your applications. Between October to November, you have to start filling them in detail and send drafts reminders about your LOR submission. Also finalize your draft of the SOP. And while filling in applications, give priority to those universities that have early deadlines, and also those that give admission on a rolling basis. Um, and yeah, lastly, finalize your uni specific SOPs. So there's some universities that require an academic purpose and a personal statement. There's some that require just a statement of purpose, and their word limits are varied. So you should be looking into all of that and sort of personalizing each for every university. And between November to December, you can start filling in the department specific application questions, any scholarships that you need to apply for before applying for the university. Then try to submit 2 to 3 days before the final deadline. And also, once you've submitted, just keep checking whether everything has gone through, the LORs have gone through, the application fee has gone through, and all of that. You can move on to the next slide. Thank you.
All right. So next we'll be covering how you can start shortlisting colleges. So what we most of us did was the best thing you can possibly do is go to like the QS ranking website, and as this is like the most reliable website to check for university rankings. So that is like a good starting point for you, because you'll be very overwhelmed in the starting. So what I personally did was I like only stuck to the first 150 to 200 universities. So go through each and every university and see whatever courses, if the course that you want to do is in that particular university or not. So keep going through the entire list of 150, 200, or like up to wherever you want to put the cutoff of. And we generally don't recommend going for universities below 200, I guess. But again, it's up to personal preference and it's up to what you want to do. And if you really like the university, then go for it. And apart from the overall QS ranking of that particular year, you also want to check out the ranking for the particular subject of interest that you're going to take. So if you're going to take environmental science or environmental engineering, then you just check the ranking for environmental engineering in QS. So you just search environmental engineering QS ranking. That's it. So it'll come up like the closest or the closest topic list will definitely come up. And for this, since it's subject specific, it's better if you stick to the first 50 or maybe the first 100 of this list. So once you go through these lists and you shortlist your universities, your list will probably have about like it could have like 30 to maybe even 50 universities, and that's all completely all right because it's your first list, it's your first draft. So you'll add everything that is of interest to you, and that's completely okay. So like after this, you start like once you have your university list ready, start making an Excel sheet. And what you do is you're supposed to add your university name, the country, on the course name, the world ranking, the ranking in the particular field as well. And then along with this, you're supposed to add your application dates, any requirements for application, like what all you need to submit the application, the course description, because this will help you shortlisting later, especially the course description, because it has a gist of what the course actually has to offer, and any scholarships that are offered, research facilities or current research that is going on. Fees, this is very, very important because sometimes we may not be able to afford, because like some universities have really high fees. So even if you do get in, you might not end up going. So this is one thing that you should consider, because you don't want to waste your application fees on a university you might not even end up going for, even if you get in. So that's one thing you should consider. And one more really important thing is job opportunities. So look into what alumni in this from like graduates from this particular course are doing, or even on the course page there is a section for potential job opportunities. So make sure this aligns with what you want to do and what you want to pursue later on. And yeah, and courses have two things. There's like research courses and there's taught courses. So research courses are very research and thesis based. So they are, and taught courses are more professional. So if you want to directly go for a job in the professional sector and you're not much into research per se, try checking for taught or professional courses. Those are more it'll prepare you more for the working world. And research courses are more into if you want to actually go for research, being a scientist, doing a PhD or anything. The research courses are more up your alley. So next, like after you make your list and add all the details, is then you start like shortlisting. And even while you start adding your details, you will realize, okay, maybe this is not the university I want. So you just keep removing it and updating your list every now and then. And the third and final step is your finalizing and your final shortlist. So your final shortlist should ideally contain between 6 to 10 colleges. Below 6 colleges is really risky because you might not get in. Your colleges might be too ambitious, so it's always good to have like a safe 6 to 10 window. Above 10 might be redundant because you'll end up wasting application fees, because application fees are expensive for certain universities, although many of the major universities have made their application fees like free, so there's nothing as of now. But yeah, so check that out. But more than 10 colleges might be a waste of application fees, and you'll just end up having too many admits, and it'll be hard for you to decide where to go. The list should have a good mix of dream colleges. So like really, really good colleges, which you think you might not get in. So like you should at least aim for those, because who knows, you might get in, right? And so you should have at least like 2 to 3 dream colleges, or maybe even 1 to 2 dream colleges if you don't want to waste application fees on that. Second, you should have like attainable but like really reputed colleges, so very good colleges, which you feel are also attainable, like that. And if you also should have safe colleges, like you might go for them, you might not go for them, but like everything aside, it is definitely like a ego boost, or at least like a self-confidence boost for you when you at least get into some of the universities which are your backup options. Because trust me, some of the good colleges release their admissions a bit late. So like to keep you not demoralized until that comes out, it's good to apply to a few backup colleges, and it'll you might get in, you might end up going for it, or it'll at least give you like a confidence boost, and it won't like make you demotivated. And things you should consider while shortlisting, or things you can do while shortlisting, are contacting alumni. So ask them their feedback about the course or what they are doing currently, and just see if that matches what you want from a master's program. Next, check out the fees, because this could be a major factor. check out alumni profiles, see what they're doing, check out the modules offered, because sometimes the course sounds like something you want to do, but you have to check out the courses that they offer, because if it doesn't match what you actually think the course, like just the name or just the description doesn't cover enough. You have to see what courses they offer and what they cover in that particular modules as well. And do search about current research that's going on in the university, so you know what the university gives preference to, and you know if you will belong there or not. So stuff like this can help you shortlist. So I think that's it about shortlisting colleges. If anybody else wants to add anything, you can go ahead. All right, then you can move on. So next we'll be covering exam prep. So first we have GRE.
Okay, so I'm going to be explaining about GRE. So basically for UK and US both, if you're looking for like MS, admit or anything, GRE is required in some universities. I won't say in all the universities. I applied in 6 universities and only like 3 of them required GRE. But GRE is a very lengthy process. Like you should start beforehand. It almost takes about 3 to 4 months. Is just for preparation, like getting around stuff, learning everything. Because the quant that is required by you is the quant of like 10th standard or 9th standard or 6th standard. And at that point, when you're in college, when you're done with graduation and everything, you might not remember those things. So like 3 to 4 months for preparation and 2 months aside for doing the mock test and everything, because it's a 4 hour, approximately it's 3 hours and 45 minutes. So approximately it's a 4 hour test, and sitting for 4 hours for a test is not that easy. So it basically has three components. It consists of quant, verbal, and AWA. AWA is the essay section. You get 2 essays that you have to write in under 30 minutes, which you will get separate time for that in the examination. Apart from that, in the quant and verbal section, it consists of 6 sections. So basically, if first section comes as quant, then it will be quant, verbal, quant, verbal, quant. If it comes as verbal, then it will be verbal, quant, verbal, quant, verbal. And both of these sections carry 170 marks each, making a total of 340. So a good GRE score would be approximately 320 plus out of 340, because 320 plus is something that the colleges accept. It's their basic requirement that you should get 320 plus score to get a good admit in UK. But if you consider about USA, it's always like 330 plus or 325 at least. For AWA component, it's actually it's actually separate, calculated separately. So you have a 170 quant section and 170 verbal section. AWA is a completely different element, although you have to give the AWA section within that 4 hour period, but it is graded on a separate basis. Its score will roll out 1 week after your GRE score is actually released. So its score on us, like its total score is 6 points, but 4 plus is doable. 3.5 is also doable. It's a good score because AWA marking is very strict, as the ETS people, where you will book your GRE is done that. Okay, and while preparing for GRE, always buy the official guide of GRE. It contains all the latest paper, how a particular year paper is gonna be set. Everything is in the official guide. You'll get to know about how quant comes, how verbal comes, how everything will be prepared. Manhattan Prep is good for quant practice, not for verbal practice. Manhattan Prep is a nice book which you can use to maybe revise your quant topics, because they have been done for like so long ago that you might not remember, and Manhattan Prep may help you with that. Apart from that, vocabulary practices and workbooks and revision are all available online and in the official guide as well. You need to practice your vocabulary. English is a must for GRE. People score 170 on 170 on quant, or even 160 on 170 on quant, but they always like score 130, 145, 140 in verbal. Verbal is very tricky and tough. So focus on verbal more. You'll, as all of you might be like engineering students, so maths will not be a problem for all of you. So I say that do quant, but also focus more on your vocabulary and comprehension, everything. And obviously you have YouTube videos and everything with you, and also your seniors who can guide you through the process or give you your books. Always refer to the seniors or alumni you're approaching, and always check which college requires GRE and which isn't. And if one of your dream colleges doesn't require GRE, then it's not the point, then it's not necessary to give it. And if it, like some of the universities, like out of 6 you pick 2 universities required GRE, and you might not have a good chance of getting in, or it's just like a
I don't know, shot in the dark, then you should give GRE, or that basically depends on you because GRE costs a lot. A one exam is like 20,000. So I just say, and it is not a guarantee. Like if you gave GRE one time, you'll get a 320 plus score. That is not a guarantee. I gave GRE, I got a 310 score, and I didn't give afterwards because it's just very expensive. And the colleges that I applied to did not require GRE as such. They only required IELTS. So I just say that give GRE only if the college is required to. Otherwise, ask your alumni or colleges that you're applying to, and you know people there, and just ask their advice. What do you think? Should we give GRE or not? I guess next slide.
Okay, so coming to the TOEFL exam, which is the test of English as a foreign language, it's essentially offered in two formats. One is the internet-based test, and the other is the paper-based test. I think I would personally recommend just going for the internet-based one. A lot of reasons. Number one, most of us, I'm assuming most of us are people who
Thank you, Gauri.
most of us are people who've given the internet based test for a JE and stuff. So it's a format that we're relatively familiar with. Secondly, the paper based test, the results take like a lot of time to reach you. Okay, so the TOEFL has essentially four components of 30 marks each: the reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Um, the exam duration for the TOEFL is about 3 hours, and there's a 10-minute break between the first two sections. The score for the TOEFL is valid for about 2 years, and I think the target score in general for TOEFL should be between 100 to 120. The minimum cutoff that at least I noticed for most universities was around 85 to 90 for the engineering programs. I'm not entirely sure how it is for other programs, but at least for the engineering programs, um, the minimum cutoff range between 85 to 90. In certain universities, it also went as low as 75. I would say that the ideal preparation time for the TOEFL can be anywhere between 2 weeks to 1 month, and that entirely depends on how comfortable you feel you are with the language. I think a great way to test that is to give a mock test. There are a lot of like free mock tests available, and they're just going to give you a little idea of how much you're scoring already, and just like help you figure out what are the areas that you should be focusing a little more on. And I think that would like streamline your preparation a little bit. um, in terms of the preparation material, I think the official TOEFL guide is great just to understand the kind of questions that have come in the past, what the exam format looks like. Um, there are the ETS mock tests. Those are great. You can look at the Noteful TOEFL resources. There's the test glider, TOEFL practice tests. I cannot stress enough on how good the YouTube videos are. Listening to people and their experiences who have given their tests is, I personally feel, extremely crucial for your TOEFL preparation. um, there are certain fixed prompts and formats that are recommended, and those are also like the structure of your answers during the writing and the speaking also makes up a huge component for the way you're marked. So going through the fixed prompts and formats, I think definitely helps you prepare for the exam better. And there are a lot of YouTube videos available that kind of just like give you a general format on how your writing answer should look like, or how your speaking task should look like, and I think that helps a lot. Gauri earlier mentioned the importance of the verbal section in GRE. I think if you're giving GRE, your work for TOEFL is definitely cut down, because you would be preparing a lot of your vocabulary for GRE anyway. And for GRE, you would be preparing for about 3 to 4 months. So I think that would definitely help you kind of navigate your TOEFL preparation better. A couple of tips that I would definitely suggest on the day of the test is, normally, at least in India, the test is kind of happening in like this room that would have like about 10 to 12 systems. And unlike the IELTS, for TOEFL, the four sections happen on the same day. So you're giving all four sections in continuation. And basically, it's not necessary that when you're giving your listening test, somebody else is on the same section. It's basically on your own pace, right? So there is a chance that you could be giving your listening section or your speaking section. Somebody else might be on a different section of the paper, which means there might be external noises. And I think being prepared for that, for the fact that it's not going to be an absolutely quiet test center, is really important. Because I know when I was doing my writing section, most of the people around me were doing their speaking section, and it's really distracting. So I think being prepared for that is great. They give you headphones. I would suggest keep your headphones on throughout. It does cut down the noise a little. It would help you focus. And finally, do practice how to make short notes for your listening section specifically, because they're going to repeat the recording twice and then the questions start showing up. So it's going to be really hard to remember everything that was said in the passage. So it's great practice to just like make quick shorthand notes. Similarly, for your speaking section as well, they give you a little time to prepare what you want to say. Quickly jot down the points you want to make sure are there in your answer. Do the same for your writing section. I think it would definitely help you structure your answers better. I think that is everything I personally have for the TOEFL. If there's anything else that anybody else would like to add that I might have missed, so then they can. Cool. I think we can move on to the next paper then.
All right. So the next English test I'll be covering is the IELTS test. So there are two tests. One is general and one is academic. So you're supposed to give the academic test for your master's program. So IELTS scoring is a little different. It's scored out of 9 bands. So you have 4 main sections, which is listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And each of these sections is scored out of 9. And this score is averaged to give you your total score out of 9. So speaking happens separately from the reading, writing, and speaking sections. Sorry, reading, writing, and listening sections. So usually, like in my experience, both of them happen on the same day. So it depends on whether you get a slot or not. So like for me, I had my speaking section, and in like half an hour of my speaking section, I had my main IELTS test. So luckily, everything was on the same day, but it depends on the availability of your test center and if they offer and all of that. So yeah, that's there. So like how it is there in TOEFL, like the overlapping sounds and everything, that will not be there in IELTS. IELTS is completely disturbance free and it's completely silent in the room. So that is one advantage. And so that is there. And the total exam duration is around 2 hours 30 minutes. And like Shambhavi said, if you prepare for GRE, your preparation for IELTS or even TOEFL almost becomes nil. I literally, and your score is valid for 2 years. So I literally had to prepare for, like preparation periods vary from 2 months if your English is a bit poor, to even like 5 days. I started preparing 5 days before the test, and I scored a 8.5 out of 9. So, but then again, this should not make you overconfident or cocky. Take like a mock test 2 months before your test date, or as soon as you book your test date, and see how much you're scoring. Depending on that, if you score around a 6 or a 7, I would say start preparing at least 1 or even 2 months. If you're scoring a 6, you should definitely start preparing 2 months before. If it's like a 7 or something, start preparing a month before. If it's 8 and above, if you're getting 8 and above, then you should, I think, maybe like 2 weeks or 2 weeks or 10 days, that should be more than enough for you. I prepared using, like, I just watched like a 10-hour YouTube video, which I broke it into parts on every day, and I just broke it apart, and I watched like one 10-hour YouTube video. I did a few practice tests, like questions and tests here and there, and that was all my preparation was for IELTS. But do note that I gave the GRE before, so my preparation for English was already pretty sorted through GRE because of the vocabulary and everything else. But yes, IELTS English is considerably easier than GRE. So if you plan to give both the English test, like the TOEFL and IELTS, as well as GRE, give GRE before, so that your TOEFL and IELTS go much smoother, because GRE English is really difficult. I cannot stress that enough. And TOEFL and IELTS is really easy. So prepare for your GRE before, and then IELTS just follows. It's really easy after that. And yeah, so I would suggest I would suggest watching YouTube videos, so you get a brush through and a feel for the exam before you actually start preparing for the exam. And you can simultaneously start preparing and everything. There are many online tests which are harder than the actual test, so don't get demotivated if you score bad, because they design it to be harder, so you prepare more than you actually need to. So like, don't worry about that. Brush up on your vocabulary, look at prompts, and look at like templates of writing essays. Templates really help, because the exam day you're going to be pretty stressed, and if you don't have a template ready for the type of essays that are there, you can get pretty scrambled. So I would suggest, and plus writing time, I would say for IELTS is pretty less. Like there's not enough time, as much time as you would want for writing. So I would say like having a template ready with you is much easier. So you have like certain like introduction, okay, these are supposed to be the points, then body and conclusion, and you can just fill in according to whatever the prompt is. So yeah, that's there. And for listening, so in TOEFL, listening actually you listen to everything first and then you answer the questions if I'm not wrong. But for IELTS, you listen and write the answers at the same time, so that's a huge advantage, because as you keep listening, you can just like jot like tick mark your answers. And then but I think they play each audio only once, I don't exactly remember. So there's that, either once or twice, I think it's just once, so that disadvantage is sort of there. But it's much easier, like marking your answers as soon as you start your, oh sorry, they do play twice, so the first time mark all your answers, second time just check it again and you will be good to go. So don't worry, the IELTS is really easy. Just take a mock test before, assess your standing, and then figure out how you want to prepare thereon. So yeah, that's all from my side.
Actually, adding to the IELTS point, once you register for IELTS, you'll actually get a book from the site as well. So they'll give you a book of the latest, like the latest 2016, I guess you'll get of the latest book, and it has like 5, 6 mock tests. So that give you a basic idea of how it goes, and you can do listening at home as well. So you can practice listening of how it is done actually at the center. So, yeah.
Just another thing that I'd like to add. So, I think everybody would agree. Just give your tests a good time in advance, because they do require a little time to send your scores to the universities that you have chosen. So, for example, for TOEFL, you get your reading and I think your listening scores immediately, but the official scores comes after a week. And for US universities, they take at least 2 weeks to get your scores sent to the university, and this will differ if the university is like, say, in Canada or another part. um, in addition, another thing is that not all universities accept all English tests. Most universities do accept both TOEFL and IELTS, but for example, Stanford does not accept IELTS scores. It only accepts TOEFL and then CAE and stuff. So also, just like it's not just the GRE's requirement that you have to check, you should also be checking what is the examination, like the English exam that the universities you're going for is accepting. Um, but yeah, that was one thing that I feel like I missed earlier.
And a general rule of thumb is that, like nowadays, most universities accept both the English tests. But a general rule of thumb is that most US universities accept TOEFL, and most like other like UK or like European universities accept IELTS. But nowadays, most universities accept both of them, except some universities like Stanford and like a few others. So just like look into that.
Also, for TOEFL and GRE, I think you have the option to send your marks as soon as they come. So the thing is, you will have to keep your shortlist. If you have shortlisted universities at the time, just keep that ready. Like they have like a place to put the school codes in. So if you have those ready, you can just search up the school right after your exam is done. There's no charge for sending your scores to 4 schools. But afterwards, if you were to send after finalizing your university list, then they do charge for each and every university you're adding to the list. So do keep that in mind.
Also, I could be wrong about this, so correct me. But I think in the case of TOEFL, you need to send your 4 free schools list before your exam. So you can only edit the list to like 24 hours before your exam date. So at least for sure in your shortlist, have your 4 main schools that you know you're applying to, because you'll save money that way. Because like Tanya said, every subsequent school is going to be $20 extra. So yeah.
Yeah. And also, one other thing, I took the TOEFL home test, and I think that was really nice for me. Like everything happened online, but it was internet based. But I took it at home, so I didn't have that inconvenience that Shambhavi had with like speaking in a room full of other people speaking. So there were no distractions, and the scores did reach my universities on time. So maybe you could look into that option as well.
And one more thing, if you wait, I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, I'm sorry. Never mind. I think we can move on.
Okay. So next is statement of purpose. So statement of purpose is basically another letter that you send along with your application to the university that you're applying to. So it's a document that first hand lets you communicate with the admission committee. Up till now, you are just seeing your name and everything, but right at this moment, they can understand your story. It's not. It's an opportunity for yourself to sell yourself to the university. They how they can see that you fit into university and their interests align. But it's not a copy of your CV. Like it's not like the you're studying the facts. It's more about your storytelling. You have an opportunity to tell your story to them, what you have done, what you have been up to now, and what you want to do in the future. So statement of purpose is basically one of the most important or crucial element in your applications. So what does an SOP consist of? So basically, SOP can be subdivided into four categories. Basically, first will consist of your journey, like what have you done up till now, your schooling, your academic, your university, your course, what you have done. Then why are you trying to pursue masters? For example, if you want to pursue a masters in X degree, so what exactly attracts you to do that? Like, have you well, why are you attracted to the particular course? Maybe you like something about the field. Maybe you want to learn more about the field in depth, or maybe you are just invested into a lot. Next is what you have been done up till now, like current research interest, like if you have published any papers, how has the journey has been, if you have attended any conferences, any internships, how that has been for you, your interest, your journey. And finally, the final component will be why you have chosen this particular university. Let's say you have chosen a university X. So what exactly made you choose this university? Is it their faculty? Is it their labs, or is there infrastructure, anything? So this cumulative counts you for an SOP and makes you stand out from the crowd, like because the point that you were saying is it's your story to tell. So being you is the only way you can write a distinguished SOP. So and for writing a distinguished SOP, you need to take your time because you are not going to send a paragraph and that's it. You need to go through multiple iterations of your SOP. You need to check with your alumni or your friends or your colleagues to see that if it's up to mark or not, it is telling a story rightly or not. So for that, you need to start drafting your SOP as soon as possible. Next is organizing your thoughts. Because you're writing a journey, you need to keep in mind all your points, like what you have done up till now, what your thoughts has been. So focus is the key. Because while applying for university, it's not like you have a deadline, but no one is pushing you for that. That you don't have to. No one is bothering you that you have to do this by now, by now. So you need to be focused and concentrated that you are doing this within timeline, the timeline you have set. Next is while applying, you are applying to multiple universities, and all universities have different guidelines. Some have different word limits, some have other page limits, some wants like letter of intent, some want personal statement, other documents. So you need to take that in mind too, consideration too. Next is while writing an SOP, they want to understand that you are invested in a particular university. So you need to do your research, like what exactly labs, what kind of labs do they have, which professors are studying, what kind of courses they are putting, so that you can show that you are excited to be there. And if they feel valued, obviously they would put you on a much better spotlight than other candidates who have just written some lousy SOPs. And one to remember is while mentioning projects, don't just highlight the final outcome. They want to know journey, what you have been through, like what kind of challenges you face, what kind of the hard roadblocks that you face. So it's more about the storytelling than the final journey, final outcome. So these are the points you need to remember while writing a good SOP. If anyone wants to add anything else to this.
Yeah, I would like to add something. So basically, one thing you remember in your recipe is that it doesn't matter how many accomplishments you have or if you've done something great. It's like Yash said, it's how you express them and it's how you write them. So even if you don't have many projects and you have one thing that you're really proud of, just highlight that very well. Because some people, like I had a lot of projects, but then when it came down to my SOP, because of the word limit, I couldn't mention everything and I only end up mentioning one of my most prized projects. So don't worry if you don't have a lot to put on it also. It just matters how you mention it, and if you have passion for the course you're taking, that's even better. Just frame your recipe in such a way that your passion is exhibited, because that is what they look for. It's not about what your accolades are or how great you are. So it's just purely how passionate you are about the course, and just proving that you're passionate through any work that you have done. That is all.
Just adding a little something to this. So, for almost all universities, the SOP is required, but there are certain universities that do ask you for an additional essay. It would be called a personal history statement or a diversity statement, or something along those lines. How does this document differ from your SOP is that the SOP is a little more academic in nature. It's storytelling, but it's storytelling that's more about your academic and your professional life. The personal history or the diversity statement gives you a chance to talk about your lived experiences, and it's a little more um, for a lack of better words, it's a little more intimate and it's a little more about you as a person rather than you as a student. So, this is the place where I would definitely say everything that you've not mentioned in your SOP. Stuff like volunteer work, stuff like extracurriculars. If there have been any significant like difficulties that you maybe faced in your life that has kind of pushed you to go for masters, this is a great point to talk about how the life you have lived has encouraged you to kind of go for this program. And how, like, I know that in my case, because it was an environmental engineering program, I used my personal history and my diversity statements to talk about why the topic environment in general was so personal to me, and how my life experiences had led me to have an understanding of it, and how maybe actually studying a degree like environmental engineering challenged those perceptions. So it's stuff like that. It I think adds a little extra personal touch to your application. Again, not all universities require it, but some do. And in most cases, whenever they ask you for this, they mention the prompts along with it. They'll exactly mention what kind of questions they want you to answer. So I think just following those questions and answering them is also a great part of like just boosting up your application. In addition, a lot of these universities give you, like, at the end of their application, they give you like an additional information little like dialogue box where you can just like add anything that you felt you were not able to cover in the categorized headings of the application. So if there's anything you feel, any kind of volunteer work that you maybe did that you felt like could not be covered in any of the key requirements that the university was asking for, this is a great time to like, that's a great space to just utilize it and mention that stuff as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and again, adding to that, I think it is very good to like making use of all of these different statements, like the diversity statements, the academic purpose, the personal statement, all of these, and the supplemental questions that might be uni specific. Use all of these to highlight different things, because obviously it is not very easy to mention everything that you have done. So try to split everything that you have done into these four categories and make a very wholesome picture of yourself for the people. Don't repeat stuff. And yeah, and I think I do have a resource which I followed for my statement of purpose, and I'll just attach the link so you guys can go through it if you would like to.
Oh yeah, the resource which Tanya is sharing is was really helpful for me too, because it gives you, like, if you're clueless about where to start and how to write it, it gives you like a step by step breakdown. It helps you realize, even if you don't know what you want to write, it helps you realize, it helps you bring out your passion basically. So it's like a really helpful resource. I suggest you guys go through it.
Also, while we're talking about resources, make Grammarly and Quillbot your best friends while writing these essays. I think nothing that I submitted for any of my applications, everything that I did went through a quick Quillbot paraphrasing. It went through a Grammarly check. These resources are incredibly helpful, and the free versions of them, I think, definitely just get the job done. So running it through these, like, I think vocab and grammar resources is, it'll definitely help your essays, I think.
Also, DTU offers free Grammarly premium subscription. So just go to the library. There's a poster. Just check it out on the ground floor. Just check that out. It's worth checking out.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the letter of recommendation. So as you heard about the SOP, the letter of recommendation goes a little differently, because in my case, in the case of USA, when UK, when you go to the website, it is actually written what the college wants, or what it should include basically. So it should include what grade you scored in that class, what that professor taught you as a subject, how that subject was important to you, how well did you do in class, how that teacher thinks of you. Were you a good student? Were you a hardworking student? Did you get a good grade at the end of the subject or anything? But one of the most important things of like beginning with a good LOR is selecting a very good professor. Like a professor with a maybe an emeritus would do, or a great assistant professor, or actually a legit professor with a lot of research papers or a lot of name in the community. That would do. But with saying that, a lot of times when you select a professor of very high degree, it may be that they may not be able to operate their email so much, or they say that, take my email ID or take a photocopy and just give it to the college. But that is not how it's done. Some of the colleges actually require for the teacher to give the LOR to the college. But at some of the points, like in my case, one of my teachers were very old. He was an emeritus, and he didn't give me his email ID. So that problem came with me that I was not able to submit my LOR that was particularly signed by him. So just select the teachers or professors who have their proper email ID, who know how to operate them, and who you can get in touch with really quickly. With with that being said, also, just like, how can I say that? But be nice to the teachers you are going for an LOR. Okay, just like to get a good grade, get an A at least. Okay, like I scored a good grade or I got a good CGPA at that semester. Yeah, be good to that professor, please, please, because the professors always like, they're like, okay, I will sign this LOR, bring it next week, then it's 2 weeks, then it's 3 weeks, then it's 4 weeks. They don't come to college, they take a holiday. They hear your name and you think that, okay, इसने तो मुझे क्लास में बहुत परेशान किया था. They won't come and sign the LOR very easily. Be good to the teacher, and just saying that, and choose your professors wisely. I took 3 professors. One of them didn't have an email ID. The rest of the two were very cooperative, and I got my LOR signed like within 2 weeks, and it was not a problem. And like, always check the college guidelines. It is very important that you go through the college guidelines. Whatever they've mentioned, you have to mention it. Like the college that I got accepted right now, that is Warwick. Actually, I was required to write my CGPA that I scored that particular semester when that professor taught me. So that is very important for you to include. Do not miss out, because if you miss out and then you submit it, your application, it might cost like some harm, or they don't accept your LOR and you have to submit it again. So just keep that in check. Apart from that, do not go for a guest faculty. If you think that professor is good and he teaches good, do not go for a guest faculty. Guest faculty are very risky, because like in my branch, it's like guest faculty comes and maybe like a month or so, and they'll just like go. They're like not in college anymore, or they won't come to college anymore, and they won't even sign your letter of recommendation. So I would prefer it from my side that go for a permanent faculty. And all the things that you're required to write for an LOR is always given on the website. It's not as like you have to give it your all like the SOP. Yeah, it's not required on that. You just have to write what the college has written and how the professor perceives you. The teacher will sign the LOR without even reading it. Sometimes they don't even pay attention, they just sign it and they just let you go. But it's your responsibility to make your LOR sound as pleasing as you can, that the professor thinks really highly of you. So that depends on you. And yeah, you can always refer to Grammarly and Quillbot. They are your best friends during this whole application process. They will help. These resources will help you a lot whenever you're making a mistake. So yeah, that's
Just a couple additions. So most universities require you to at least submit 2 to 3 LORs. For example, you're applying to 10 universities. That is 30 LORs that you have to get from these professors. And not all professors, like, they might not agree to like give you LORs for all 10 universities. So having um like a good number of professors who you can go for the LOR is a good idea. Because there might be certain professors who tell you that, Acha, okay, we can give you 4 LORs. And that's absolutely, to some extent, it's also completely understandable. These professors do have classes, they have their own PhD scholars. It's really difficult to take out the time to do this. And like Gauri said, almost all of these universities, they require the professor to themselves submit the LOR. So in most cases, the professors, they'll get an email that's going to take them to another portal. Then they have to like put in their details, submit the LOR over there. It's a long process, and all professors might not agree to do that for like 10 universities. So having a number of professors, who can I think that is something that you should like already decide which professor are you going to get what LOR for. um a great way of doing that is also just go a little according to the program specificity. Say for example, there's one program that you're going for, where the specialization is something that one of your faculty members does have, and that faculty member has agreed to give you the LOR. So getting the LOR done for that particular program from the faculty member with the same research area is a great idea. So stuff like that, just like do the combinations and stuff, so that at the last moment you're not stuck with the thing where you do not have like professors who are willing to give you the LORs. The second thing is, this is a little environmental department specific. I'm not sure if this is something that is there in other departments, but currently in the Department of Environmental Engineering, they require you to fill a form that needs to be submitted to the office with the exact information as to what university or what purpose this LOR is being asked for, your achievements, and the professor you're going to for the LOR. It's only once that form is signed off by the HOD that you can get an LOR from any environmental engineering professor. This process can take a little time, which is why I would suggest that get your forms out early. Before sending the form in, have a word with the professor, make sure that they're okay with giving you an LOR. Um, get the form submitted in the office as soon as possible so that you can start the whole process of getting your professors to sign your LOR, because this stuff does take a little time. But yeah, I think that is everything. That Oh, there's one more thing, I'm so sorry. For US universities, something that my seniors recommended me was to, if it's a non-thesis based course, which means that if it's like a taught course, it's a smart idea to get one LOR from a professional and two LORs from academic people. So like, just like do that balance as well, where one LOR you're getting from like a professional supervisor, and then two you can get from your college professors. For obviously thesis based course, getting three LORs from like people from a research background is a good way to go. But like for course based courses or like pure engineering courses, I think you should have one professional LOR and two academic ones. So yeah.
Yeah, so just make sure, like when you're doing internships, make a good impression on the supervisors and people who are above you, because you will require a professional LOR. Some require like two LORs, so one from faculty, one from from your internship supervisor or anything, and or like two faculty and one professional. But no matter what, at least one university you'll be applying to will require a professional LOR. So maintain good relations with your, like, just make a good impression, be very proactive, just make a good impression so that they'll be willing to do it, because sometimes they can just end up ghosting you, which has happened in many of my friends' cases. So that gets a little annoying and very, like, it'll cause panic in the last moment. Please get your LOR started a little beforehand. Don't do it last minute, because you have to give, sometimes professors make revisions in your LOR. So you have to change it, get back to them and get the finalized version. So you need a time to first draft your LOR and get it approved and then send it to them, and they'll take some time on their end because they have a lot of stuff going on. So give them some time, be a little patient, and for all this to happen you have to start beforehand. Do not do this last minute. SOP you can still do it because it's entirely based on your thing, but LOR is dependent on somebody else, so make sure you start early on for this. And one more thing, like SOP, even for LOR, don't try to like obviously maintain good English and use good vocabulary and stuff, but don't try to like fabricate stuff. And don't be like scared if you don't have much accomplishments or anything under that professor. Even for LOR, they just look at, LOR is basically a professor vouching for you and being that, saying that they'll be a good student and good addition to your institution. So what you should mainly, even if you don't have anything, for example, all you've done is just take one course under this professor and you haven't done anything else. So you can write about how your attendance was really good, how you were very active in class, how how you were very interested, sure interest in the subject. These are stuff that you can mention, and you're supposed to like, and if you got like a A plus or a O, if you got an O, that's perfect. You can be like, they passed this course in the top 8% or 10% or something like that. So that's a very good thing that you can add. So like, just when you start LORs, maintain different profiles for each of your people, each of your recommenders, and write each and every single thing that you can write with of your connection with the professor. this is where you pull out points from, because there are times which you cannot reach the specified word limits. You have to like really dig deep in and see what you can write about and what you can, publicize about yourself through the LOR. So basically, LOR is just an extended SOP which somebody else submits for you. So be smart, mention things you also mention in your SOP, which is also related to the professor. So like just do a little, it's a little bit of a mind game, and like some smart things you have to do here and there to make your application really pop.
And one other thing I suggest, whenever you're like, suppose you're doing an internship right now, I suggest making notes of whatever you have done during the internship. Because for me, at one point, I was like, what did I do? Like, I remembered, but then I had to go back on all of the stuff that I did, like the reports I made, to really understand. And in that way, like highlighting stuff that you learned in the internship, etc., that can really help you when you're writing your LR. And also like how you were to the professor, like you can write like small stuff that you might have, that okay, she as soon as I told her to do this, she went and she did even better, like she over exceeded my expectations, something like along those lines. And also like make sure, as Shambhavi mentioned, some of the professors don't really agree to send more than 3 LORs. For example, I did my internship last summer under my tax. So when I spoke to my professor regarding my LORs, I was applying to 6 universities. And when I did speak to him, he was like, I'll just give it to you for 3. And I was like, how, what do I do now? Because I had 2 other profs decided, no other prof I had worked with at university. And the other internships weren't really as good as this one. So I really wanted this particular internship to be a part of my LORs. So what I did was I contacted the person under him that I worked for, like an associate of sorts, and I made her write an LOR for me. So that is also something that you can do if somebody refuses to give you an LOR. Like for example, a professor may not agree, so you can contact the PhD under the professor who you might have spoken to or whatever.
Another thing, I am not sure if this was already mentioned, so I'm going to mention it again. But this is something that stands true for both your SOP, your LOR, all your essays. Get it read by other people. Definitely show it to your seniors, show it to the people who are already there, um, because these are people who've already gotten in, right? So they can always give you and let you know of a little thing that you might have missed. I know that almost every LOR, whether it was the ones that I got done for my tax, whether it was the ones that I got for my masters right now, I did get them read by my seniors. And there were parts where maybe there was something that I had written that could have been worded better, or something that I felt was like extremely juvenile, and why would I get like a professor to write this in the LOR? But something that they felt should have been there. So getting it read from somebody else, I think gives you another perspective, or like lets you know of like things that you might have missed. And the same thing is also true for your SOP. At the same time, um, everybody that you show these drafts to, they're going to have certain opinions. The choice of what opinions you want to actually incorporate eventually lies in your hands. You do not need to put in everything that everybody has told you, but take all the opinion and then decide what you think fits best for your profile. But yes, definitely get it reread by a couple other people.
So the last thing I want to say about letter of recommendations are, you have been working with the professors all this time, so you should realize not all professors are nice or kind or helpful. So you should be prepared for that outcome also. So moving on. So personal profiles.
Oh yeah. So now we'll be covering each of our
Sarvani,
personal
I'm so
profiles. Oh,
sorry. So
sorry,
sorry
sorry.
for
Yeah.
like, no, no, I'm so sorry for interrupting you. There's just one little thing that I realized that we did not have a separate section for, which is your transcripts. You're going to have to submit them for all universities. Give yourself like, I don't know, a month in advance is a good idea. It's administrative work. Just like the LORs, it's not something that's in your hands, which means that giving yourself a good couple of weeks to get all of that work done is a great idea. So yes, that's also another one of those things which you should not be leaving for the last minute, because again, this is something that's in somebody else's hand. The only thing you can do is keep following up, but getting it eventually done is something that they do. It can take time, so get your transcript sorted beforehand. Yeah, sorry.
All right. I remembered what I wanted to say about IELTS earlier. So basically, not every university requires the IELTS scores to be sent by the testing institution. So for many universities, you can just upload the final mark sheet that you get, the official mark sheet. You can just upload it, and because since it costs money, like so, I for me it costed like 30 Singaporean dollars for every thing I had to be sent by the testing institution. So check with the university, make sure that they actually require it. Don't waste your money getting it sent unnecessarily, because for many universities you can just upload it and you don't have to get it sent. If it's not clearly mentioned, it will not be clearly mentioned, and you won't realize until you start the application whether it has to be sent by them or you can upload it. In any case, email the admissions committee of that particular university. This is a general advice for all admissions throughout. Admissions committee is pretty responsive, so if you have any doubt, don't shy away from emailing them, because they will revert, like at least maybe like a maximum a week or two, but they will definitely revert. So don't keep anything until the last minute. If you have any doubts, immediately ask them so that you get their response in time for you to prepare your stuff. So don't shy away from asking them or any of your alumni or seniors for anything if they have applied to a university that you are applying for. So yeah, so we can move on to personal profiles. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the same thing for TOEFL as well. You don't really have to, like, not all the universities require your TOEFL. So, like, you can upload it as well. It doesn't have to come from the ETS. So that's it.
Yeah. So now we'll be covering each of our personal profiles, and we'll be sharing a little bit about our grades, what universities we got into, and just like you can just get a general idea as to our profile and the universities we got into. It might be helpful for you. So the university that I'm going to be studying in is University of Toronto. I'm going to be doing sustainability management over there, and but these are all the universities that I got admits and rejects from. So I think I applied to a little over 10. I think I applied to like 10. I was going to apply to 8, but then my dad freaked me out, and I ended up adding more universities to my list, because he's like, you didn't apply to enough universities in US. So I ended up searching for more just for fun, and I added them. Which was completely redundant. So it was a waste of application fees, because the ones I added towards the end, all of them required application fees, and they weren't really that good universities either. They were just backup universities. So it was a complete waste of money, time, everything, because every university application requires a lot of time in terms of SOP, in terms of LOR, and in terms of just submitting the application on its own. So just keep in mind that probably don't make the same mistake that I did. Stick to like the golden number. I would say is probably 8. That's like the safest number. But yeah, so these are the universities I got into, and these are the rejects that I got into as well. So my rejects are most, except for University of London, these other universities are mostly like in the top 15. So I knew I wasn't going to get in anyways, but I still gave it a shot, because you never know what may happen. So my CGPA was at the time of application, my CGPA was 9.07, and I was the environmental topper. Although I don't think that made a difference. CGPA, as long as you're above the minimum cutoff and you have like a good 8.5 and more, or maybe like more than 8, preferably above 8.5. It doesn't really matter how much you have above that. As long as you have above that, it's good, it's fine. So don't stress too much about CGPA, as long as it's above 8.5 or maybe even 8. So don't worry about that. It's your profile that matters more. It's your SOP that matters more. Everything else matters way more than that. My IELTS score, like I mentioned earlier, was 8.5. I did not give the TOEFL. I gave the GRE, but I did not use my GRE score for any of the universities, because none of them required it. So yeah, and internships, I did a few internships, one in Singapore, and all of the rest of them were in India. I had one publication prior to my, at the time of applications, I had one publication. I think at the time, so as I was applying, it got accepted while I was applying to universities. So the starting few universities that I had didn't, it just said under review, and like the next set of it had it like, oh, accepted, like published, has a publication or whatever. And I had like 3 main positions of responsibility. So I was part of mostly environment related societies and organizations, and apart from that, I was the managing director for Girl Up DTU. So yeah, that's my profile. Moving on.
Okay, so I applied to around 8 universities. I got into all of them. In my case, if I was to just quickly run, so I basically applied to 6 US universities, one in Canada and then one in Netherlands. For me, my safety schools were, I think, Texas A&M and Wageningen. My dream schools were Stanford, CMU, and Berkeley. And I think the kind of target schools which were attainable, but like at the same time also reputed, were UMich, UIUC, and University of Toronto. Um, my CGPA at the time of application was 8.47. Like Sarvani said, having something above 8 is a good way to go. For most of these universities, their minimum criteria is about 80%. So yeah, like mine, like the 8.5 mark, it just barely touched it. So um, for my TOEFL, I did not give the GRE, largely because except for Carnegie Mellon and UIUC, all the other universities had clearly said that they were not going to accept the GRE scores. CMU and UIUC had the GRE scores as optional, so I decided to not give the exam. My TOEFL score was 116 on 120. For internships, I have been a MyTax Global Link research intern in Toronto. I have also done a research intern at Terry, and I was an environmental science intern, which was a little bit more of a management position rather than a core research position at Oath 5R, which was a remote internship. I would definitely like to stress this. At the time of application, I did not have a publication and I did not have a GRE. So I couldn't even mention that it was under review because I know that my SOP was where I got a chance to like mention what I was doing. I know that when I was sending in my application was the time when I had just finished my draft for my introduction and my literature review, and I was waiting for my professor to get back to me. Currently, I do have an international journal publication and an international conference, but at the time of application, for none of the colleges, I did not have any of this. Um, which is why, again, I would stress your SOP and your LOR can be a game changer. They're a great point to pitch yourself forward. I definitely think in my case, the LOR that I got from a MyTax professor, I have no idea what he wrote in the LOR because that was one LOR that was submitted anonymously. Um Not anonymously, like as in that was like not visible to me. But I think that was a game changer because that was the one LOR that talked about the research work that I was doing by somebody else. So I think that really worked. I am assuming it worked great for me. And I know that my SOP was where I got a chance to like mention what I was doing. In terms of my PORs, it has largely been in more of an extracurricular field. I have, sorry, in my case, I have been a part of Pratibim, the Dramatic Society, for 4 years. I was the general secretary of the stage wing. I have also been the branding and publicity manager of Client DTU, and I was the content head at Innova DTU, which is the annual Techno Management Fest. So that would be my profile.
So I applied to quite less number of universities, only 6. But then that was because one of my seniors had mentioned that Wageningen for the environmental science program, it gives 100% acceptance for everybody who is applying. So that was my safe university, and I really liked the program of the university. So I was like, okay, even if I don't go anywhere else, I'll have this one. And the ones that I did get was the one that I'm going to be attending is Stanford University, and I'm going to be joining the MS in Environmental Engineering program. The others were all environmental related. University of Michigan had a SEES program, which is in sustainability, environment, and development, and the University of Toronto program was sustainability management, and at UIUC it was also environmental engineering. Oxford was the one university I got a reject from, and my CGPA around the time of application was 8.58, and I got a TOEFL score of 115. I did give the GRE, which helped me a lot for my TOEFL, but as Sarvani and Shambhavi said, I did not end up using my GRE score. But I did mention it in my resume that I had given it something along those lines. As for my internship, I did the MyTax Global Link research internship at the University of Sherbrooke in Canada. And then I also did a couple of remote internships. This was all during the COVID period. And at the time of application, I had one research paper publication at an international journal and one conference publication. And my positions of responsibility were the R&D and newsletter head of Swadhyay, the design coordinator Paryavarnam DTU, and the events director at Gala. That's it. Thank you.
So yeah, so the main thing about my profile was that I was in engineering physics and I wanted to change my domain to computer science, like data science and AI, etc. So the one of the most hardest roadblock that I faced was that many universities don't take students like us. For example, they need someone who has done their bachelor's in the same domain as they apply for masters. So that is why the number of universities that I applied were not that many. But I applied for these university. I got acceptance from Queen Mary University of London and Durham University in the same domain. And now I'm waiting for University of Leeds and University of Sheffield response. The main thing that I did wrong was not adhering to the deadlines. Like I've crossed many deadlines. Like I there was every time I face a roadblock that I used to stop. So if I have to advise you anything, advise you that it would be don't stop, keep persisting to be defined and do the submit the application. The worst thing that they can do is reject you, right? So it's fine. Other than that, my CGPA was 8.9. My TOEFL score was 110 out of 20. And the one thing I want to mention about TOEFL score is I was not preparing for TOEFL as such as hardly as others would recommend. But like for preparing for TOEFL, I decided that I would book my appointment. And the day I booked my appointment, I started studying. So I studied for like a week for TOEFL and got 110. So it was a decent score. Other than that, my internships has not been that great. It was just for the namesake. But the main thing about my profile was that I've done many summer schools like Amazon, IBM's, and astrophysics and stuff. So that was the highlight. I can say that was my highlight in my SOPs because it shows that I was eager to learn. I was able to, I was navigating the field, exploring other domains. So it was a highlight in my SOP. And that I had one research publication, two are under review. I think one just got accepted in the morning hours, and I have one conference and one conference paper published. And for position responsibility, I've been part of an actors DTU for 3 years. For that, I was a co-founder in Project Switcher and Project Arosh, and the founder and head. So yeah, that's about me.
Yeah. So I from BA Economics honors. So I applied to programs of MA Economics and MSc Economics. A lot of them are MSc now. MA is just like 2-3 colleges. So I applied to a total of 6 colleges. I got accepted from 3 and rejected from LSE, and I'm waiting for a response from University of Edinburgh and Manchester currently. And at this point of time, I've decided to study from University of Warwick, and I got my CGPA was around the time of application was 8.96, and my IELTS score was 7.5. And like for IELTS, I would say that if you have like good basic grasp of English and you are able to speak well and listen well and do good in English, you will score it, because I gave my IELTS in just like 3 days, and in which I got sick. I got a cold and cough, and I gave it in 3 days, and this is the score that I received. And I also gave my GRE, but honestly, on GRE, I have to say that only three only 2 of the universities that I applied required GRE. So I would say that always check the requirement of your colleges. And yeah, some of the colleges that I applied to only asked that if I've given the GRE, and some asked what score that I got. So a lot of them were like, "Have you given the GRE?" And the score did not even matter to them. That should you should keep in mind that if you get a low score, because this is what happened to me. I got a 310 score. I was so upset. I was like, oh, my life is over, or like something like that. I didn't apply to anything, and I was waiting. Like I gave my GRE around October, November start, October end, and then I was like, चलो बैच score, चलो छोड़ो, आगे बढ़ते हैं, आज मास्टर्स इन इकोनॉमिक्स तो नहीं होगा बाहर से, let's try in India. And like later on, I realized that this is not the deal. I started researching for universities, and then I got to know that half of them didn't even require this. It's just IELTS that is important. So I would say that before like making a decision in PhD, you should actually go through a proper research, like which university requires. So you don't waste any time. I wasted a lot of time. So when it was time to apply to University of Edinburgh and Manchester, I got like the second or the third deadline that I applied to, and it was like really late. So basically, the internships that I did was actually I worked in a public policy think tank, and I was a head of research and content there. Then I worked under as a research assistant for a head of commerce and trade in Niti Aayog. So like one way I got this internship was that I filled the Niti Aayog form. So it's government insurance. They're always like that. Every month from 1st to 10th we'll open the dates, and they'll apply in like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and you have no idea till then where you will be, or like where if you have to apply to other internships, you have no idea. So one of the things that you can do when applying to government internship, always reach out to the heads on LinkedIn. Always contact them, say that you have submitted, but your application is like not getting processed earlier. This is your profile. You're willing to work and you're willing to contribute as much as this. And so yeah, that is one way to actually become the research assistant. That is what I did. Apart from that, I also worked on digital marketing firm. This was at the time of COVID, and around the time of COVID, I also volunteered for a Live Aid Foundation, and my research projects didn't include research papers because my degree is of only 3 years. 3 years just passes by. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no grasp of what it is. And especially like in BTech, they give you dissertation. But in BA, there is no such thing as that. You have to take it upon yourself to do it. And I was not able to do it. So I just published 3 articles through my internship only. And my position of responsibility would have to be like head of East Campus of Inactis. I was the vice president for my dance society and the content head for the PR cell.
Thank you, Gauri.
So yeah, that's all about us. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. You can write in the comment box or ask.
So, I must say, on behalf of everyone, that it was indeed a very insightful and extremely helpful presentation by the panelists. Now, we request our panelists to please answer some questions that we have curated from the Google Form responses. Also, participants may feel free to put up their questions in the chat box. So, the first question is, can you please provide insights into the interview process, if applicable, for the master's program you applied to? How did you prepare for interviews and what types of questions were typically asked?
Okay, so I think for environment programs, at least for all the universities that I applied to, there was no interview process that happened. In the case of Carnegie Mellon, we did have to submit a video essay, but that was as far as the interview thing went. In the case of CMU, for their video essay, they give you a topic on the spot. You have about, I think, a minute or something to make like a video. You do not get redos on it, but there was no formal interview that I had to go through. And yeah, I mean, I think that's from my side.
So there
Right.
was, yeah, Sarvani, go ahead.
Go ahead, it's fine.
So there was a interview process for University of Toronto and the course that me and Sarvani applied to. It was the MSc in Sustainability Management course, and they asked me a couple of questions about just why am I interested in the program, and but mostly for these sort of interviews, what I suggest is go through your resume really well, know why you're doing that particular research, what are the results from that research, because they ask you stuff oriented to that. In addition to that, they also, for us, they asked about our general like lifestyle, how we try to integrate sustainability into our course. So they did have some questions related to that. Sirvani, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it was mostly that. It was based on experience, and they did ask a few like questions related to the subject, but they were very like vague questions. So it's like you may know them, you may not know them. So there's no way you can actually prepare for those kind of questions. Just hope that you have enough knowledge about the subject. But it's okay. Like most of the subject, like the course-based questions or subject-based questions, are more like your interpretation of something. They ask you like, what is your opinion on this, or what is your definition of this? So that is okay. You can just somehow figure out what to say. It's fine. And the rest, yeah, just be very thorough with your resume, because they'll ask you specifically what you did in this particular internship or that particular project. So you'll have to be able to answer very confidently, and you'll need to know what you did. It can't look like you didn't really contribute much to, and you just added it to your resume. So be very thorough with everything. Be thorough with why you want to apply for that particular course in that particular university, because they might ask you, why do you want to choose this course? So you have to be very like passionate and proper like about your answer, and just be certain in what you say, and don't like frazzle or any of that. That's it.
Yeah, like if I have to say for UK, then I guess Yash will also agree with me that we don't have a interview process as such. Actually, all of the universities don't have an interview process. If they do have it, they're already mentioned in the brochure, or you will find it in the website, or the video process is not there. So there is no interview process. So SOP and LOR are your like everything. So like contributed to that. Mention everything in there, because like that is the only thing that will submit to the college, that is written by you or is said by your professor. So like focus on that, as you'll get no interview process.
Also, next, I think it's a question for a lot of people, that how important it is to have a backup plan in terms of scholarship. Like, did you apply to multiple scholarships simultaneously, or how did you manage the different requirements in the application process for them?
Okay. So for the scholarship, I wish somebody had told me this during 2021. No, wait. When did we go for my tax? We went for my tax in 2022. I wish somebody
2022.
had told me this in 2022, um, because there is currently the Fulbright scholarship process. It opens a year before you're supposed to apply. So if you're applying for the 2024 session, the Fulbright process is open currently. I think it's one of the most comprehensive scholarships. They cover a lot of stuff. They do have a couple of things, like there's a little discrepancy, because at some places it says that you need a 3-year work experience, but then at other places it says that if you have a BTech degree, you do not need a 3-year work experience, because a BTech degree counts as a professional degree. So these are questions I would suggest going through. But I realized that a lot of scholarships opened a year before the actual semester was supposed to start. I ended up realizing this much later. I already had my admits and I had missed a couple of deadlines. Um, so don't do that. If you're looking at scholarships, check the scholarships that are open currently. The Fulbright is one that you should definitely be looking at. I know there is one called the KC Mahindra scholarship that you can do after you've gotten in your admits. So that's also a good one to check out. There is one by Tata Group, but I'm not 100% sure what the name is. But those were a couple of scholarships that I found when I was researching. The deadlines for these are very tricky, so I would suggest if you are looking at scholarships, you should start looking at them side by side right now itself.
Yeah, so exactly what Shambhavi said, but there are also some other. So apart from internal scholarships, some of the colleges already take that into consideration. Like they ask you a question: do you want to be considered for funding within the university? So you will obviously be clicking that option. And apart from that, you have a couple of external fellowships. There's the Aga Khan fellowship as well, that also provides money. Then there's a interest free loans, loan free interest, okay, interest free loans that you can take up. And but for all of these, there's like an interview process. There'll be examinations that you have to give, and you will have to continue seeing the deadlines for all of these. um, yeah, I think that is it. And hopefully just pray that you'll get a TA or an RA once you join the university. That's what we are relying on, I think.
Yeah. In addition, aside from these scholarships, for example, Carnegie Mellon immediately considers every applicant coming to the Department of Civil, and I'm not sure about other departments, but definitely for the Civil and Environmental Engineering department, you're immediately considered for a financial aid anywhere between 20% to 70%. And the department in general is extremely liberal with the funding that they give. They have funds set aside for financial aid, so you can always mail the department after you've gotten an admission, and in most cases you're able to like secure some extra funding from them. Those are also a couple options. There are universities that would, and this is something that's mentioned in their admission, like in general web page, whether you're immediately considered for a financial aid or not, or do you have to like externally apply for the university scholarship. For example, for Stanford, you have to apply for a scholarship separately. So yeah, those are a couple of things that obviously you should be looking at while applying.
Yeah, I would like to say that if you're applying to UK, a lot of the university, what you have to do is you have given the application fee and everything is done. After you get an admit, you can apply to the scholarship. But you have to keep in mind of all the dates that you like. The scholarship deadlines are very hard to meet, because like after you get an admit, it will be like 1 week, 2 week, apply it, and then it'll be over. Depending on that, and also like I was something who like took a student loan. So apart from that, if you're applying for a visa, then if you have like funding your own education and everything, if you're like able to do that, then you have to keep the funds in your account for 28 days. So you have to keep in mind according to your fee structure that you have received from the college, how much amount, like take a ballpark figure or take like 10 above or 10, 6 above, whatever you want, and keep that much money in your account for the visa application, because that is required at the time of visa. It is like after you filled your application 2 3 months after that, but still. And when you like even apply for colleges, always look for scholarships, because this is something that I missed and I didn't realize because I was so busy in getting the LORs, SOPA and everything that I forgot about like how I'm going to do. Apart from taking a student loan, else if I can apply to a scholarship on anything, that would be much beneficial. It would cut like 6 to 7 lakhs or even 8 lakhs from my fees, and that would be much appreciated. So that is the one thing that I forgot. So I always keep that in mind. And if you're going for a loan, always talk to like 5 6 banks, take the interest rate and like compare it with the interest rates of all the other banks, and then make a calculated decision. But like sit with your parents and discuss.
I would like to ask a question. Like, can you share any advice for students who are considering pursuing MS or masters but leap के लिए unsure हैं?
Leap matlab jumping into masters, or like you're unsure
Are
about
you
मतलब
talking about the leap
masters
follow?
plus taking a leap from here to there, it's a very big distance culturally and adaptation wise, everything.
right. I mean, it should be okay. Many people do it every year. Don't worry about it. And there are like many Indian students go abroad, and whichever university you go to, there'll be many people who are in the same boat as you. So whenever like you get into a university, you will mostly be connected to your classmates. Go through the list, find a few Indians, and reach out to them, and like start forming connections from beforehand. So you have people to contact in case of any doubts, any queries, or like finding a place together if you guys plan to stay outside campus, or roommates if you guys plan to stay in campus. So don't worry too much about like going abroad. It's fine. It's for the better, and it's for your career growth as well. So do you have anything specific to ask, or is this okay?
This is okay, but like even if we contact the alumni, is like even if I want to take my admission next year, I would definitely contact you guys right now for any of the advice that I would need, or any help of that sort. But in the end, that would be a very important decision for me to go there, and I would have to socialize with other people also, and there would be a very much of a communication gap and all of that stuff.
That's what I was saying. So just like make sure you have a few Indian friends from your class itself, people who are coming from India, so they're in the same boat as you. So mostly they will mostly be judgment free. They'll be fine, and they'll be in the same boat as you, so it'll be completely okay. And then you guys can go over there and figure stuff out together. So I mean, if
Just to
anything
add,
else.
just to add a little something to this, most of these universities have these certain like Indian associations, and before you're like actually supposed to go, a lot of these associations conduct like these little meet and greets in a couple of like the metro cities. For example, actually yesterday there was Stanford's Indian Association had conducted a meet and greet in Delhi. They did one in Mumbai a while ago. So like that, for almost all of these universities, they kind of try to get to know the new Indian intakes before you're actually supposed to go. So I would definitely say that like kind of getting in touch with these people, and developing a bond with them as little as you can initially goes a long way. It will make you feel a little more comfortable, and you're definitely right. It's a big cultural shift, and I'm pretty sure that in September it's going to be a huge cultural shock for all of us. But at the same time, it's again something, a leap that's being taken because it's something we're passionate about, and more like you just have to fly out of the nest, and you have to just take that leap of faith kind of a thing. So you're going to be okay. Like you're going to find a lot of people, and you're going to do great if that's eventually what you decide to do.
Like
Yeah,
adding
and
to
you
that,
know,
there is a lot of,
sorry.
oh yeah, okay, yeah. So
No, no,
adding
no,
to
go.
that, okay. There are a lot of universities, like my university, University of Leeds, has a Southeast Asia department, and in which they keep the webinars and everything. And in Bristol actually does like webinars here in Delhi, in Mumbai, as like Shambhavi said. And like taking a big leap is basically what is going on in our mind. There are a lot of people around us who will help us. Like we have cross generation or 21st century. It's all digital. You can contact anyone, anywhere, any place. And like even like if you want to like move back to your country after your masters, you can take up remote work and leave. You can travel the world. You can do anything that you want. It's all possible nowadays. And I would just like to say that, like, if you're taking like that, such a big leap, it's all in your mind, like you're thinking. So you have to convince yourself that it's not such a big deal. Everybody does it. Okay, like everybody goes to abroad, everybody studies. Some live there for 5 years, 6 years, and they don't like it and then come back. It's not a big deal. Or they like it and they settle down there. So it's all about just adjusting there. Because like yeah, after like I completed my applications and everything I submitted, and when I got to admit, like then it hit me like, oh, I'm gonna go, and like it's gonna be such a big step. Even if my degree is for like a one year, but still it's such a big step because then you have to do job, pay off the loans and anything that you have, and obviously you have to earn. You're going to like do a nice job, get experience, network. So yeah, it hits, but then like you'll be okay because there are a lot of people with you who are going on the same journey.
Yeah,
I some
before we even like got the like as soon as we got the
Can I ask one question, please?
yeah.
My question is from Shambhavi. If I am third year student of software engineering branch and want to pursue my masters from foreign universities, I have no idea. If for noobs, if you can tell from basics, how can we get there a short, crisp path? And I am a little afraid of English.
Okay, so if you're not very well versed in English, maybe you can try looking for coaching classes or institutions because that can definitely help you. Self study is definitely better. Self study we would only recommend if you already have like a decent grasp in that particular subject area because you can just brush up on your basics. But if you are a little clueless, I would suggest if you have the money to spend on it and if you're okay with it, maybe going for coaching would definitely help, especially in India. And apart from that, I guess application ke hisab se we have covered everything. If you have anything specific to ask, you may ask.
So, like if we have to apply for very few universities like Stanford, UCLA, and like this, for there I have seen few DTU students have gone there. So, what are the roadmaps they are following for the same? If we are from third year,
Right. So like we mentioned, having a good SOP is very important. Having a good LOR is very important as well. And apart from decent GPA, doesn't have to be the best, but it has to be above a minimum cutoff, and after that it's okay. And apart from that, I guess SOP is, I would say, one of the most important. And apart from that, like the rest definitely follow LOR and having good tests, decent test scores and everything.
Also, Saurabh, we'll share the PPT, and if you have any other specific questions, I think you can reach out to any of us on LinkedIn, and we would be happy to kind of like help you in a little more like maybe some of your personal queries, and we can kind of like
okay,
help you
okay.
guide. We would love to, yeah.
LinkedIn, how we will get LinkedIn of all?
We'll at the end we'll put all of our LinkedIn accounts on the chat, or we'll ask
Okay,
like SCEE to send it. Yeah,
thank you, Sambi.
anytime.
Okay, so the next question is for Yash Bhaiya. So the question is, in which universities do you face trouble because of not being from a tech branch? And what exactly is the branch criteria for MS and CS programs?
So the basic thing is, like for example, countries like Germany. When I was applying for Germany, the thing was Germany is completely funded by government. So the selection process is quite competitive. So it depends on the admission committee. When they see your application, see admission committee don't understand what exactly you look for. They have to just check mark that if I'm fulfilling this criteria.
मत
See if
बोल
I'm
मत
the
बोल मेरे को.
see if I am the required credits in this field or not or that or that. So they just have to make check marks. So if I'm not able to convince them, they will simply reject my application. But if my application further process, then the actual director of that branch, director of that field will see my application and he will be more able to understand what exactly I'm bringing to the table. So, for example, in Germany, I faced many difficulties because while applying, they were asking in my transcript they were asking for this particular subjects, which I haven't done because my major is engineering physics. And see, let's say they're saying computer architecture. I haven't done that in my coursework, but they have asked me for the subject. So if I am able to provide them with a substitute of the same subject that I've done in the coursework in the college itself, then I can apply. But if they don't accept another coursework like Coursera, courses through Coursera, or uh, any other coursework like from YouTube and Institute, they accept only college mark sheets. So this is one thing you will face. Other than that, there are certain credits criteria. For example, out of 60 ECTs, they expect that 30 ECTs are from particular branch. For myself, I did my minor in machine learning and AI, so I have done like 6 subjects from the computer science domain. Other than that, in the first year, I've done computer fundamentals and introduction to computing in my coursework. That also counted as the computer science subjects. So cumulative, I have done 8 to 10 subjects in the computer science domain. Still, it wasn't enough. For example, my application was straight up rejected from University of Leeds because they said they need someone who has foundation in the computer science domain. So you will be facing the roadblocks here, but there is nothing you can do about it because you have chosen the field, you have invested your time here. You just have to maintain good GPA and you have to be show that you are willing to learn. You have the background, relevant background, and you will be able to fit in just as much as a next computer science student. But obviously, there is also another element to it. Let's say if a director at a particular coursework wants students from diverse background. For example, in data science domain, they need someone from economics background, from computer science background, from engineering physics background. So there your profile might be on spotlight because you have coming from physics background and you will be able to bring a new perspective. But it's not the case every university or every case. So it's based on your luck if you are able to find the right university and the right person is seeing your profile. Just having so, see having a minor in a subject might help because you can claim that you have a minor in particular field and you are willing to work more on that. You are choosing this domain, but it's nothing like it's not a big deal as such if you're not able to complete your minor. Like for example, in DTU we face that we are not able to get the required subject that we want, but if you are getting a minor, it's just a plus point, it's a bonus, but it's nothing like a deal breaker.
Yeah, so I like saw a few questions in the chat, so I'm gonna answer it. So like how to prepare for GRE and manage our college studies. I would say like I got a summer gap of 3 months. So I would say utilize that 3 months. Like I didn't. My mother just told me you have to give a GRE, and I was, yeah, I have to give a GRE. And then she enrolled me in the class. Herself, she gone, she enrolled me. I didn't even know about it, and like I had to give the GRE. So I got into like Jamboree classes for GRE, but I have to say that I took it very lightly because of 3 months. It was all online, and I was like, huh, online. I'll see to it. I'll see to it. I'll do it. But it was not like that. I took it very like casually, and I ended up getting a 310 score, as you know. So I would say like utilize those 3 months to actually clear all your doubts, all your confusions. The faculty is with you, and the faculty will help you really well on all clearing your doubts. And also the material that you get from them is very helpful because they will give you vocab cards and like vocabulary sets and everything, and a lot of verbal stuff which will really help you in like your preparation. So I would say that like go for your coaching if you have to like prepare it like very good, because I did it with a coaching, and like take your coaching very seriously. If you like have to go for GRE and to get a good score, then I would say that you pick an offline session rather than an online. If you can do an online, then like yeah, go ahead for it. But yeah, I would say like every summer vacation or every vacation or long weekend that you get, study for your GRE because it's very important. Your GPA is gonna get affected. Mine also got affected. Yeah, so like I didn't like because after like a 3 month period, I prepared for 2 months on my own, and that on my own thing was always like I have to get up early, then go to classes, then come home, and I was already tired by then. So then I have to study for GRE. So I would say that any confusion, any clarification, or any topic that you have to do from scratch, do it in that like 3 month holiday. That is what my advice would be. And yes, my internship in Niti Aayog was a social political like I focused on research paper mainly because I was a research assistant. So like whatever sir said, like I had to do a literature review, I had to cite the sources, I had to proofread the papers or anything. That sort of work that I had to do. But yeah, it revolved around it always around like the social political issues. So yeah.
There's just one thing I'd like to add. It's not necessarily regarding the answers that Gauri gave. This is just about the GRE in general. For the 2022 and the 2023 batch, which is ours, the GRE was largely waived off because of the pandemic. That may not necessarily be the case for the coming years. I know for a fact that for a lot of US universities, the tech courses were asking for the GRE, even though in our case, the environment courses weren't. So I think there is no harm to start preparing. The worst that could happen is that you wouldn't need it. And I think I would like to say that because Gauri mentioned this earlier, for like the engineering people, the quant section isn't really going to be that difficult. It's more about the speed than the difficulty of the questions. It's mostly the verbal. So I would definitely suggest that, just in case you're not like blindsided by the fact that all of a sudden all universities require GRE, I would say start thoda thoda preparing abhi. If you can take out the time, it will take off the pressure last moments पे, if just by chance they make it compulsory for the 2024 wala season. Also, I think somebody had asked that when is the best time to give these papers. I think for the English exams, giving them in your fourth year is a good idea, because these are scores that are only valid for 2 years, so you can like use them for the 24 and the 25 wala season if you're like currently joining your fourth year in 2023. The GRE, on the other hand, if I'm not mistaken, the score is valid for about 5 years. So if you can take out the time earlier, you can give it. But I mean, you can also like give it in. I've not given the GRE, so I might not be the best person saying this, but I think like because that's what Tanya and Sarvani did. I think they gave it in their. I think Tanya did it during like the end of her like third year. Third year,
Yeah,
so I think
still
that's like a
during the
good
summer.
time. So
Yeah,
like, I
yeah, yeah.
mean, you can do it tab also, but like, yeah, for the GRE, the score is valid for 5 years. So like, if you want to get that out of the way, your score is valid. You can go ahead and do it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
yes.
suggest this. So I have put on the link of this coaching that I took, and that was very helpful. So they have like a 1 month and a 3 month crash course of sorts, and they give you the words, they give you like places you can do it from, and the person who is coaching really breaks down everything for you, especially with the verbal. It was very helpful. So maybe you can go for that. It was only $5 per month, so, and you can even split it with your friends, and you guys can all do it together.
So, ma'am, I want to ask one thing that did you explore any alternative funding options apart from the scholarships?
No, me not as of now. No.
Same, but I think Gauri earlier mentioned about the loan thing. So there is
Yeah.
that. Other than whatever fellowship or funding options that the university by itself provides, or any scholarships that you can get from like other private institutions, I think the loan thing Gauri talked about, I think she can elaborate on it again if
Yeah,
need be.
yeah. So like if you're thinking of taking the loan, obviously you have to talk to your parents about it because there's an interest payment as well. You have to figure it out how you're gonna pay it off. And also like if you're taking a loan, then contact 2 or 3 banks. Don't just stick to one bank, like, and always compare their interest rates because they'll always keep changing, and go for the interest rates where you think that like good for you and your parents income, like adjust to that. Because when you're going for a student loan, you have to provide everything, like your co-borrower salary slip, everything. Like they require who is your co-borrower. It's usually your parent, it's your father or your mother. So it's like all your loans, or have you taken any loan before, or any security that you have to deposit. Like my mother is a government worker, so she was allowed to take 30 lakhs or up to 30 lakhs of loan without giving any security. That was a benefit that I got, that I got a 30 lakh loan without a security. So that is one thing. So if your parents work in like a government job or have a government job, then making them co-borrower would do you some benefit to some extent. So I would prefer that, but also like search upon the interest rates and everything and talk to the bank services about the education loan. They'll tell you much more about it than I'm able to.
There's another thing. This is not something. I'm sorry. Was somebody going to say something? I'm so sorry if I cut you off. But this is something that I did not personally explore. But I do know that there are certain people who go for this option, which is that I'm not sure if that is true for like BA subjects as well. But like right after your BTech, again, not sure about other countries, but for US you can go for PhD positions, and PhD positions cover your tuition fee, and they give you an additional stipend. Obviously, PhD positions are much harder to secure, but a lot of these universities do allow you to apply for those as well. So maybe that is something that you can research into. That's not something that I have checked, but I do know a couple of people who, during their admission process, had also gone for certain PhD positions. So maybe that's something that you can explore.
If we are
Okay.
doing PhD directly, then how many years of PhD it will take?
I
Like
think
UCLA from is taking directly PhD after bachelor's of technology.
I'm not entirely sure. As far as I know, the PhD takes about 5 years. But again, this is not an option that I have personally explored, so I'm not entirely sure of this.
I think the
And
MS plus
in
PhD
between,
program will
in
be
between,
fine.
Yeah, Tanya,
Go
you were
ahead.
saying something.
I was saying that usually the MS plus PhD programs, if they're integrated, they're for 5 years. But yeah.
okay. One of the, I think there is Varni Baranwal. She is PhD from UCLA and she is doing internships in between the PhD program also.
Could be. Again, for like stuff like this, I would definitely recommend reaching out to these people on LinkedIn. I have personally felt that like the people who are currently already at universities that you might be applying to, they're extremely welcoming and they would get back to you. It might take them a little time. Obviously, there's a time zone difference. They're working, all of that stuff. But I think they help you out a lot. And if there is any specific question that you have regarding somebody who's doing something that you might want to kind of go for, messaging them personally on LinkedIn, letting them know who you are, what is the field that you want to go for, is a great way to start a conversation.
Okay. So the next question is, can you share any advice for students who may not have the opportunity to engage in internships or projects before applying for the master's program abroad? Like, are there any alternative ways to showcase their skills and experience so that they might get into the university?
Okay. That's a little interesting. If you're a BTech student, you will have to compulsorily do an internship in your third year. So that is one internship that you have. Other than that, you will have your BTech project. So that's another research project that you would be kind of like working on during your application process. I'm not sure how working on an application where you do not have these components would work. Maybe kind of elaborate. Like honestly, I'm a little blank, but like at least these are two things that I feel like your BTech project and your third year internship are two things that would definitely be there on your application because these are requirements of your BTech degree. So if this person is from BTech, these are two things that they're going to have in their application anyway. I'm not sure if anybody else has any like idea on how this can be gone about because essentially a master's is you deciding to kind of go for a specialization in a subject in a very like essentially going for a specialization, right? Like in our BTech, we can still go for a general degree, even if that's not something like you can make the shift from a say like a chemical thing to like a tech thing, or from a tech thing move on to a non-tech thing. A master's is when you're consciously choosing to go ahead and study the subject in detail, and they do in some way or form expect you to kind of have some work in your hand or some kind of project to just show that why you're actually keen on going for a study like this. So I'm not entirely sure how having an application that does not reflect these two things would work. So yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Lastly, I would thank you so much. So, lastly, I would like to ask you what are the definitely the things that we should not do, like the mistakes or the no-nos, which like definitely should be avoided.
Do not mess up your timeline the way I did. I cannot stress it enough. The timeline that Tanya explained earlier, it's a great timeline. It will save you so much of anxiety and stress. In general, I remember this was something 2 years ago that Aviral sir and Raghav sir had said that the MS application process, it's extremely taxing. There are so many things that you need to be keeping track of. There's so many people you need to be reaching out to constantly. It's an extremely stressful process, and it's a long process because universities take their own sweet little time to get back to you. I was having a word with Gauri and Yash earlier, and they were telling me how for UK universities they have like a 4 week, like they let you know their responses in 4 weeks or 2 months. Yeah, that's not the case for US universities. You could submit your application on early December. You might not hear back from them until March. So it's a long process. It's a process that requires a lot of patience, and it's in general extremely stressful. So please, please, please set deadlines, follow them through. I was incredibly late. I remember my Stanford application was the first application I was submitting. The deadline was 6th of December. About, I think, a good 6 hours before the deadline, I was still revising my essays and LORs and making sure that everything is there. And it's an extremely stressful thing. You don't need to go through that. So when these guys said, "Do teen din pehle submit your application," yeah, that's great practice. Please, 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 definitely be. This is the one place in your life that I feel you really need to manage your time really well. You need to have Excel sheets. You need to have your deadlines in one place. Be as managed and well coordinated with your to-do lists and your deadlines as you can, because there are multiple things that you need to be like keeping a track of. So don't leave things for the last moment. Don't leave your LORs to the last week, your SOP revisions to the last week. It's going to be unnecessary stress. You can do without it. That is something I did. I would never recommend anybody to do that.
Yeah, I like to add to that. I agree. I 100% agree to that because LSE admissions is on rolling basis, and I applied very late. That was one of the reasons why I got rejected. And it was clearly stated in the email that their admissions are on rolling basis. They have provided the places, and only a few places are left, and I may not be able to get in. That was one of the reasons why they rejected me, was because I applied really late. So, of the colleges that are on rolling basis, please keep the deadlines in mind, because you might not know, the person who is like may not be as good as you in CV may also get in, because they have just like applied earlier to you, or have like followed the deadlines, or have managed their time properly. So like respect the deadlines, and don't fuss about the scores. If you have not scored well, just check the universities which don't require the score, or even if they do require a score, at least apply. There might be something, or like luck maybe, that you might get in. I have heard a lot of stories from a lot of people that have connected that they didn't get a required GRE score, but they still got into good colleges because they respected the deadlines. So like that is one of the most important things that you have to keep in mind. So like
Two things that I'd like to add to what Gauri just said. One is there is no single part of your application that makes or breaks it. Your GPA is not good. It's okay. There are other parts where you can shine in your application. The only two things that you should try and not mess up is the SOP and the LOR, because those are the most personal components. But worrying about not having a great GRE score and feeling like you're not getting is not a fair judgment. One of the things about these foreign university admissions is there is no one component that your whole application depends on. It's not one test score that decides your admission. So just try to do your best in all components, and don't do this where you just focus on one and lose out on all the others. The second thing I'd like to say is I would definitely suggest that the moment the applications open, create your accounts on these portals. I have a friend who did not create an account. It was a UK, I think it was a European university. Their admissions were on a rolling basis because the seats were filled. So they preponed the deadline because she had not created an account already. She never got the mail informing her that the deadline had been preponed and she missed it. So the moment these applications open, most of the times these open somewhere around September, October. Create an account just so if there's any change in the deadlines, you'll get a mail from them. So definitely do that. Do not delay creating your accounts. You can keep filling them on later as and when the deadlines are, but at least create your account, have your login ID passwords for like all the universities. Even if you end up not completing an application, that's okay. What harm do you have in creating an like a profile on their appointment page, admission page? So yeah.
yeah, I like to answer like one side on this. There is this question that is essential to have a position of responsibility in your CV to get admission to top universities. Like Shambhavi said, there is not one component that they'll focus on. If you don't have a position of responsibility in a desired society or anything, you don't have to like get into the new society or create a position of responsibility or get in all of that mess. You can just skip it. It's fine. If you're a part of a society and have done some valuable work in that and got certification for that, mention that. A position of responsibility isn't necessary to get into admission in top university. SOP and LOR will continuously saying that focus on them. Describe your process, or even if you are in a top university or you applying to a top university, just write it in a SOP that you were part of this society and you've contributed that much if it is like very price. So I would say that position of responsibility is not, it does not matter that much.
Also, essentially, what the POR part does is it shines your extracurricular activities, and that's what they want, right? They want your application to be a well-rounded application. So, having a good mix of extracurricular activities and volunteer work is good. You don't necessarily need a POR for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, and it also like is used to show your soft skills, your managerial skills, your all of that. So you can always use something else to highlight those points. So it is not required just, yeah. I think that's it. Shambhavi and Gauri covered that.
And one more thing, answering the previous question of what not to do. Again, like these people, like everyone said, I cannot stress enough how important is to start on time, especially because the university application process can get really overwhelming. It depends. It could not. For me, it got really overwhelming. So it was good that I started early because I could get stuff out. And then when it got really overwhelming for me, I took a break for like a few days and then I got back to it. So that really helps. So that is one added advantage in addition to getting everything done on time. If you have some time leeway or like some period, like a window period where you can just chill for a bit, take your mind off it and come back to it, that would be good. So there's one thing I want to add, like definitely start on time, start early, and don't stress too much. It's going to be fine. Just remember to start early so that you have enough time to chill, even if it gets too hectic or like too stressful for you.
And also, one more thing, find other people who are doing the same thing, who are also applying. Sharing that load of, the tension and all of that is really helpful. And yeah, it will help you get through everything. You'll get to know information from them. You will give them information. So it's always very nice to have somebody else who's also going through the process.
Shambhavi and I used to rant at the mini OIT, what university to go, what should we do. We used to chat about GRE preparation. So yeah, having a friend in the mix really helps. So it's a stressful process and it will frustrate you obviously because you have to continuously do it, work on your deadlines and stuff. LORs can be a bit frustrating because professors don't really help much. You have to keep on pestering them and the stuff. So it's a stressful process, but you should not stop. You should keep on persevering, keep on determination is pretty much very important for the applications. So yeah, don't stop. That would be my advice. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, I'd like to ask a question regarding your affiliation with DTU. Like, to what extent being from DTU enhanced? Like, were there any particular universities that provided an advantage to your application just because of this?
Um, I'm not
There is
sure.
no advantage as such because
Yeah.
again, like once you get in, they don't tell you why you get in. So we don't know which reason it was. And again, it's not just one reason. DTU is one of the more reputed colleges in India, so you might have an added advantage. But again, it's not like Acha from DTU say, oh, you'll get in for sure. It's your profile that matters. It's not the university you're from, but you have a stepping stone because you are from a good college.
I
It's
think
good, yeah.
just to add to that, I think the only advantage that I can think of, this is not in terms of the admission process. This is in terms of seeking help. Because DTU is a reputed college, there are strong chances you're going to find some senior from DTU who is studying in the universities that you're going for. And yes, having a senior from your own college means it's like relatively easier to kind of reach out to them for help, and the chances of them responding back to you, considering that you have a common connection, you have certain mutuals, is better. So I think that is one advantage that I personally feel can be availed. The fact that there are a lot of seniors from DTU that are studying in these reputed universities. So like finding current students or alumni who can help you, and can just like proofread your stuff. But I, like Sarvani said, I don't think in terms of your actual application getting selected, I'm not sure how much being from DTU actually helps.
So
Actually, I, oh yeah, yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. So, actually, Loveleen ma'am had mentioned to me that if students who are going to the university to a master's university from our university are doing good, that's when they reselect them from when we apply. So it is probably that people who have gone to those particular universities and who are from DTU and who are doing well in those universities, that gives that university a point to, like, okay, I can rely on students from this particular university, something along those lines. So I think that might give you an advantage.
Yeah, like my friend is from, like, he got an admit in Germany. So he told me that like the visa process people, like, I don't know who told him that, but they say that actually grade the university like A plus A, B plus B, and something like that. So he only explained me like 2 days ago. Like for Germany, I'm saying, I'm not saying that it's applicable for all the other countries, but they're saying like if you have like a A plus university that contains all the IITs and everything, then they come from the A, then they come from the B plus, and our university falls between like A plus and B plus. So like for Germany, that's what I know, if that helps. But yeah, as like Shambhavi said, that you get a lot of people like if you're from a college like as such as DTU, you get a lot of people in that university, particular university, and that helps. Like helps to make connections, help to network, and helps to like get adjusted to the place.
And
There's
if I could
another
add,
thing. Oh,
Shambhavi.
sorry. It's a very small thing. I honestly do not remember what the university name is, but I do remember that there was a particular university in which for the CGPA requirements for IITs the requirement was I think about 75%, whereas for like other institutes it was like say like 80% or above. So that is the one place where I saw that maybe a university name kind of played into. But yeah, that's I'm again not entirely sure what university this was, but it was one of the universities that I was looking at while I was doing my application process.
So in Germany, there's a university of I think TUM where they have said that they need GRE from all the other applicants except if they are from IIT. So if you are from IIT, they don't need a GRE, but if you're from other institutes, they will need your GRE. And other than that, I contacted a few people from via LinkedIn, and they used to say that people to DTU से आते हैं तो हो जाएगा तो टेंशन क्यों ले रहा. So I'm not sure exactly how much the way that could play, but I think having from being from a good college can actually help you while applying. But obviously, they don't tell you that you have been selected because you are from good college or not. But I don't think being from DQ will at least hamper your application. It might be a bonus, but yeah.
Okay, that's all for the Q&A session. We would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our guest speakers for their time, expertise, and thoughtful responses. We are still with you.
Respected seniors, I have a doubt.
You may go ahead with your doubt.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask that how can we compare the JE level preparation that we had done 2 years ago with uh, the preparation that we want to do to get a good college in abroad?
With
Um,
J, you have a fixed coursework, fixed subjects. You exactly know what you need to prepare. But applying for masters is a different, completely different domain. You
if
need to
yeah, go sorry, go on. Sorry.
so you need to like get out of your shell, contact people, visit everything. Like the entire internet, you have to search for it to get the required information you need. It's not like you need have a let's say IIT में you have a mock test, you have a preparation, you have stuff to prepare from. But while preparing for masters, you have to do everything on your own from start to end. So this way it is different. I'm not saying that it's very tough as compared to J Advanced, but it's a on completely different field. It's like comparing apple and oranges.
Yeah, and just to add a little something, if you ask purely in terms of the tests required for your masters and JEE, yeah, not even comparable. The level that we were doing for JEE was much higher. This your basic GRE and TOEFL stuff. It's more to just ensure that you can like keep up with the standards of those countries, and it's more about like quick calculations and having a good like time management, getting like your speed and your accuracy needs to be good and all of that stuff. other than that, your master's application is a little more about your overall personality, your academics, your soft skills, your extracurriculars, everything comes into play. Unlike the JE, where it's more about, like Yash said, a very fixed syllabus, a very fixed marking system. There's a correct answer, there's a wrong answer, there's a negative marking, all of that stuff that doesn't exist over here. This is a little more about you as a person rather than just you as a student, if that like makes sense. So yeah.
Okay, now I feel
Thank
that all
you.
the questions are answered. So we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our guest speakers for their time, expertise, and thoughtful responses. We at SCEE-DTU hope that this webinar has provided you valuable insights and guidance for your journey ahead. Thank you all for joining us today. Stay motivated, embrace challenges, and strive for excellence. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining.
Also, is it okay? Like, we'll send our LinkedIn IDs to Sankalp and maybe they can just be shared, or maybe we can just like quickly edit the PPT and we'll add our contact information on the final slide. And maybe the PPT can be shared with like the people who, like, because I remember certain people asking about it. So, can that be done?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, yeah.
share it on the Instagram handle.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
All the best.